Parts of the road leading to Timjepalli, Hosur in Tamil Nadu are still being built. The smell of freshly laid asphalt, coupled with vast expanses of land under construction, greet a visitor on the approach to the Tata Electronics plant that came up 4 years ago in the area. Tiny eateries dot the road on either side, and small businesses like a courier service, men's salon, a pharmacy cum clinic have all come up opposite the facility. Further in, one can take a right off the highway to get on a dirt path that leads to the Vidyal Residency, the large industrial housing facility that's being built by the Tata Group in collaboration with the state government in Nagamangalam village. A visitor braves a bumpy road and passes by a government school, church, small temple, and pristine paddy fields on one side and cows grazing with hills in the distance on the other side. And then one can finally see it. The 508 crore project that involves the construction of 14 blocks with 2,856 dorm-style rooms for the company's workers as it expands rapidly. Why am I giving you a Timjepalli Hosur darshan? Because not too long ago, I met someone who told me that I should visit Hosur because the Tatas were, and I quote, making Hosur the next Jamshedpur. And I heard 3 words, Tatas, Hosur and Jamshedpur, and I was sold. So here I am, taking you on that journey with me. Why is Hosur being touted as the next Jamshedpur? What made Jamshedpur the successful industrial town that it is today? How is the state government looking to develop Hosur? What will go into making Hosur an industrial township with modern amenities? Will the coming of the Tata Group in Hosur completely change the landscape? Hosur is no stranger to industrial activity. So why is this being considered a watershed moment? Stay tuned to find out. It's Tuesday, August 20th. I'm your host, Diya Rekhi, and you are listening to Can Hosur Be a Jamshedpur Plus? Only on the Morning Brief from the Economic Times. Before we start though, I have to tell you about this new show that has dropped from the stable of ET Podcasts. 787 is your quick, sharp, sub 5-minute roundup of financial news from India and the world. Do subscribe and listen to it on all prominent audio platforms. And now, back to the episode. Tata Electronics currently employs about 20,000 people as per reports, but it's looking to add to its headcount quite significantly. But it isn't just the hordes of employees that work at the facility, but the residents of the village that have benefited. Here's how.
I started this store a week after the Tata Electronics factory opened in 2020. Ever since the factory opened, it has really helped the local women with self-employment and being financially independent. Earlier, I was involved in poultry farming where we would rear the chickens for 40 days and get our money after 45, 50 odd days. But here, I get a daily income and that's hugely beneficial. Even my uncle who did poultry farming is now supplying water tankers to the Tata Electronics factory.
I'm a pharmacist and I started working at this clinic about a year ago. Initially, I was thinking I would find a job on the Hosur-Bengaluru highway. But with the Tata factory coming up, it has led to local opportunities for us. I belong to the neighboring village and there was earlier no work here. It was a complete forest area where elephants resided. The place has seen development only after the factory came in.
Ever since the Tata Group has come in, there's been a lot of development in the area and surrounding villages. There are streetlights and solar power. They've helped government schools a lot, and in every surrounding village, at least 10 to 12 people work at the factory. Not just educated people, even those who have not studied are getting jobs as housekeeping or gardening jobs.
2 months ago, I started my courier service franchise with DTDC outside the Tata Electronics plant. Tata Electronics came in 4 years ago. Before that, this area was very poor. There was no bus stop, also. But now, with Tata Electronics setting up, so many people have had a chance to set up businesses, be it bakeries or hotels or many other businesses that have scaled up.
But the state government has big plans for Hosur. And to get a sense of what these plans are and whether the government is looking at Hosur as a modern day Jamshedpur, I'll take you back to Chennai when I sat down with Tamil Nadu's Industries Minister Dr. TRB Raja. Here are excerpts from our conversation. So, Dr. Raja, let us begin by asking you whether you feel Hosur is the next Jamshedpur.
I mean, Jamshedpur is a great story, but then I'm sure Hosur will be much, much better than that. We are not only looking at one particular manufacturing sector, we're looking at multiple sectors here. We're also looking at a big IT story also coming up from the proximity to Bangalore that is already available. The whole thing will become probably a twin electronic city.
But why the sudden comparison? Because Hosur has been an industrial hub for decades now.
As we get, Tata is already there. I mean, Tata Electronics is putting up a massive, massive plant there, and the huge housing coming up, loads of infrastructure around Tata itself. So it's only natural that people compare this place with Jamshedpur. But I must say, this is Hosur. This is, I think, probably a modern version of Jamshedpur, but much, much better than Jamshedpur when it comes to, as I said, including a lot of sectors into the game. So once that happens, and then the kind of the infrastructure that you see now, and what is possible then when Jamshedpur was building up, and what is now possible when Hosur is building up. This given present scenario and the regime in place, and the ideas that we can put together to make Hosur a hotbed for manufacturing, for services, whole 9 yards. Then I think we can use all our experience from previous planning and previous developments, industrial development and city planning, come into Hosur. So we know where Bangalore went wrong with its the kind of the traffic snarls that you see today. The planning that's probably because it is too fast in Bangalore. So now, given that we have that time, we have learned from Bangalore and other cities for that matter.
For those of our listeners who may not know about Hosur, could you give us a quick understanding of the kind of companies that are there and what makes Hosur such a special industrial hub in the state?
See, when Hosur was, when my late leader Kalinga, the father of our present chief minister, my leader, N.K. Stalin, he wanted industrial development all over Tamil Nadu, and he saw potential in Hosur way back there. And that's when he took TVS there. And then slowly everybody else started flowing in, Ashok Leyland, and now Tata is also present there. So these are all big, large developments where a big part of their family resides there, and that ecosystem builds around that, right? So that happens slowly, and then post that, I think we'll need more, given present day scenario. I think we'll need a lot of social infra around that place. So what we have now, even though we have 14 engineering colleges, the best of hospitals and healthcare and stuff, I do see a demand for a fresh wave of social suitable to that kind of the kind of requirement from the already existing talent pool there, already existing workers there. The age group that is in the IT sector and especially the manufacturing sector. So for both, we'll need to balance it, right? So I think you'll see a good amount of new social infrastructure coming, healthcare, entertainment, again, education, and more so towards the industrialized areas where there are a lot of housing coming up. New housing units going to come out. So all these new infrastructure, they bring in brand new services also. So it's going to be a really good step for Hosur, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be a game changer for that entire zone.
Now the state government is looking at having an airport in Hosur, right? But why have an airport in Hosur when the Bangalore airport is next door?
Why don't you ask the people of South Bangalore then? they'll tell you why they need Hosur. It's too far. I mean, Bangalore, Kempegowda is like a bit too far. The traffic snarls to get there. It's just not happening. And I think more than the people of Hosur, people of South Bangalore are very happy after the announcement of Hosur Airport. So not just that. It's just see, we have our own requirements, right? We want to build our own infrastructure for the state. Now look at Krishnagiri, Dharmaburi, even up to Vellore. That entire stretch is becoming so highly industrialized, and the kind of high-end investments that are coming in, they'll definitely need more connectivity, right? So we need our own connectivity, and that's why we're going to bring this new airport. And that said, this is going to be additional add-on to Kempegowda, and it's going to serve the people of Karnataka also. So it's a huge plus for both states, I must say.
So then, would you envision Hosur to go a step further than Jamshedpur in terms of access to modern amenities?
See, initially, Hosur was probably the Johor of Bangalore. But then later, this has got all the necessary infra and the government backing to become a Bangalore on its own. So we have the investments flowing in already. So once you see a large amount of investment coming in, a large amount of employment being generated, and obviously you see a lot of spending in the local economy, right? And once that happens, social infra comes in, and then obviously your small time jobs, your entrepreneurs are all going to bloom in that area. So that area, as I see, the economy, it will take care of itself. It will keep churning out new businesses, and the new businesses churning out new property developments. And that chain is going to start. So that said, government is also pushing huge infrastructure projects towards that side. So when you have this, when you see the investment fraternity doing their own bit, and then the government backing it, plus the local economy churning itself, what more can you get? You'll get abundance of growth.
And how would you say the entry of Tata Electronics in Hosur 4 years ago has really helped to shape the ecosystem further?
Yeah, they're going to be one of the biggest, largest employers there, and they're bringing in some high-end jobs. So it's not going to be very many jobs. These are big jobs with people who will reside there and spend in a big way also. So as I said, that local economy is going to bloom beautifully because of the infrastructure that's being built, the employment that is being generated, and the expenditure that's going to come out of that employment. Right? So that is why I said this is a new development, right? So new age developments, we get new age infra, and then your entertainment is going to be brand new, right? So it's not going to be building on something which is already existing. So you will see large scale development for social infra.
We've spoken so much about Hosur and Jamshedpur, but to really understand what makes Jamshedpur the industrial town success that it is, it's essential to not only understand its genesis, but also its evolution. To figure out if Hosur can indeed replicate its model and what it can improve upon, we put Dr. Arup Chatterjee in the hot seat. Professor Arup, could you start off by telling us a little bit more about how Jamshedpur came into being?
I had some of the most pleasant years of my life spent in Jamshedpur, and part of the reason why that happened is because of the the environment, the entire milieu of the city. It's one of the oldest planned cities in India. We know the mantle generally belongs to Chandigarh, but Jamshedpur was planned much before that. So the seeds of Tata Nagar were planted in the very, very late 19th century during the end of the Victorian era. So in 1990, in honor of the legacy of Jamshedji Tata, Lord Kempsford decides to rename this township as Tata Nagar. So the foundation stones of this township were laid with the establishment of TISCO in 1907 in a very, very, nondescript place called Sakchi. And in about 12 years from then, it would go on to become a potentially sprawling township of 15,000 acres. Today, Jamshedpur is somewhat, I think, 4 times that size, a little less than 4 times. And what makes Jamshedpur very, very special, apart from its very steely aura, as I put it in one of my articles, is the kind of education, the kind of cosmopolitan upbringing that children have had, and much of it, I would like to say that it harks back to the legacy of that great man who once met Swamiji on that very historic ship to America.
Jamshedpur is known to be a steel city, but I wanted to understand whether Hosur and Jamshedpur have any similarities in terms of qualities, or if steel cities are a completely different kettle of fish.
Well, yes and no, actually. That's a remarkable question on multiple grounds because look at the geographical distance between Hosur and Jamshedpur. One is in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu border, and Jamshedpur is, you might argue, in the border of Jharkhand and West Bengal. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Jamshedpur is colonial characteristics. And steel towns were generally planned as concentric circles. So in the center, or at a very strategic location, there used to be the steel factory, the steel plant, and surrounding that were the offices of the top management. And in the next concentric circle might be the clerks and the other administrators. So this kind of planning had some organicity. It looks like these were planned because of an overarching bird's eye view, but they were planned also because of their strategic importance and the kind of proximity that each of these places shared with the resources and the locational advantages. So I would say that steel cities will be difficult to be replicated in India if we are looking for these aspects, such as town planning, such as welfareism. Another one crucial aspect of steel cities that I would like to end with is that they have superb access to electricity and water supplies, which is part of the welfarist mentality of the steel cities and the steel plant owners. Now, I'm not sure how much of this can be actually maintained in a place like Hosur. So we might come to that in a bit. But again, I'm not sure if Hosur has as much of a compliant population as the Tatas had back in 1907.
Now that there's a description of Hosur being, Jamshedpur plus, do you see Hosur being an industrial town with modern amenities and comforts? I mean, is that a viable model that they should look for?
I think rhetorically that's fabulous, fantastical. And I surely think that it is not the Jamshedpur model that is the only model of a steel city or an industrial township. There could be certainly many other models, and Jamshedpur surely is a huge inspiration for creating or restructuring new models, whether in terms of town planning, whether in terms of the kind of general outlook of the township and how well it is connected. Now that brings me to the point that Jamshedpur has been a bit reluctant, for lack of a better word, to be very, very connected with the outside world. I wouldn't say it is lost in time. I wouldn't say it is disconnected. Nevertheless, it is, however, true that Jamshedpur still lacks fully operational airport, or if it does possess an airport, the airfares are forbiddingly expensive for the middle classes. It is also true that most of the new age applications, your mobile apps, have reached Jamshedpur at a belated date, and some of them are still reaching. And when I talk about connectivity, I mean a whole host of things. I do not simply mean mobile traffic, the mobility of people from one place to another, but also the mobility of amenities and facilities. It is very surprising that Jamshedpur does not have fully operational veterinary clinics. It has to be observed that health facilities, need a restructuring in a place like Tata. So mobility has to occur in those things as well. Tata Nagar also has this kind of a new emerging problem of a demographic concentration of people, particularly senior citizens, with whom the wealth seems to be concentrated, but who lack opportunities of mobility, who lack the kind of digital literacy that is required in today's age. Hosur, on the other hand, I'm assuming will have, particularly because of its vicinity, being in the vicinity of Bangalore and Chennai, it might have a lot more digital literacy. It might actually be a more demanding place, so it might demand a lot more from its administrators. People need cutting edge technology. People need to access amenities at rapid pace, and people need more and more versatile interpretations of human rights and human duties today, because the youth cannot be challenged on its literacy. The youth is far more literate than we might have been a century ago. So these are the challenges that I really hope this new emerging township of Hosur factors in, because if Jamshedpur has been a model for the new steel cities of India, then I'm sure, I sincerely hope that Hosur could be a model of teaching the older models and indeed creating new models.
Timjepalli has been this sleepy little forest village known for frequent elephant crossings. But that is changing. Tata Electronics is expected to be the largest employer in the region. The company is scaling up at a feverish pace as it ramps up production to keep pace with Apple's diversification from China. It is, by the way, the only Indian vendor to Apple and makes iPhone enclosures. Today, Jamshedpur is an industrial town that many draw inspiration from when it comes to town planning. But as India looks to move up the value chain and bets big on electronics manufacturing, we're going to see the development of many more such clusters, and maybe then, Timjepalli Hosur will provide a blueprint for what can be followed. But will it match the top-notch healthcare, education, welfareism, and cosmopolitan culture Jamshedpur provides will be interesting to watch play out. Thank you, Dr. Raja and Dr. Arup. It's Tuesday, August 20th. I'm your host, Diya Rekhi, and you were listening to Can Hosur Be a Jamshedpur Plus? Only on the Morning Brief from the Economic Times. This episode was produced by Surohini Jain and sound designed by Rajas Nayak. Executive producers Anirban Chaudhary and Arijit Barman. The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday on a listening platform of your choice. Like I said earlier, we have a new show from the stable of ET Podcasts. 7 at 7 is your quick early morning financial news fix to get you clued in for the day. In 5 minutes or less, my colleague Bhaskar Datta will give you 7 pieces of news from the world of business, finance, stock and money markets, policy, and politics. It drops every weekday, that's Monday to Friday, sharp at 7 a.m. So set your playlist and keep listening. Thank you and have a great day.